Felix Gaehtgens, reporting live from the European Identity Congress of Copenhagen Coal. I have Siegfried Schallenmueller with me right now, Head of Professional Service at Siemens Enterprise Communications. Hi.
Hello.
Communications and security. What are the key topics that you see when those topics come together?
Well, I guess one obvious topic with communication and security, of course, is network security. And I think we have a long tradition and history in deploying very sustainable and very effective network security solutions. But very early we already started to extend our whole security approach into risk management, into identity access management, because what we are facing now very much is that, especially with unified communication, the demand into security is increasing dramatically.
Unified communication. Sorry, let me just interrupt you there. Could you clarify a little bit for those that don't exactly know what this topic means?
This is a hard one. Unified communication, I think we need to face two sides here. One side of unified communication, of course, is bringing a data infrastructure and a voice infrastructure together. But this is simply on an infrastructure level, so on networking, on voice and data applications. The much more important and much even more security-related matter is around the business process you support for unified communication. And unified communication means you can see a status, a present status of one of your customers or one of your employees. Or you can do instant messaging. You can extend your voice communication with easy video or audio conferencing. So all these different areas of communication are now mapped into the data world. And this, of course, brings especially in the security area, a much higher demand for making sure the right people are accessing the right systems and applications.
So, how does identity and access management come into play? That must be a pretty important piece of the whole puzzle when you're deploying.
Well, thank you very much. You're phrasing it that way. Because on one hand, you could think identity and access management, this is a pure IT data business stuff. Now with this explanation of unified communication, we face that data communication and voice communication is becoming bundled into one application. For example, if you do let's think of a Salesforce automation scenario. You have your mobile Salesforce running around on the street, selling like hell. You have that nice weekly calls where you do the pipeline management and so on, where a lot of people come together in a voice call at least, where you need to access through your application the latest pipeline information, very sensitive customer information. And here you definitely need to make sure the right people get the right access to the right information and voice systems. And this is provided by identity and access management tools. Because here, for example, you have your sales guy with his identity, with a chip card, for example, proving his identity. There are certain roles behind, and this is how identity access management is really coming now into a much more complex environment than simply accessing data information.
Complex environment, you said that pretty well. I can imagine that makes for pretty complex projects. Is there any experience that you might want to share?
Well, yeah, I like to share some experiences here, but before we get into that project stuff, let me put up one thing first. Because the complexity is not only driven by bringing communication, voice communication and data communication together, it's also very much driven by SOA. Because we should be aware that we need to make sure with all this now very distributed applications, where you have a lot of, let me say, services bundled into in a portal or in voice-enabled portals, you really need to make sure that you get the right security functionality in a standard, in an SOA framework. And this gives an additional complexity, because now you need not only to do a right project approach, I will come to that in a second, but also you need to make sure that you pick the right architecture and that you provide the right architecture. And maybe to extend on this 1 second, we now in our whole unified communication suite, we added a SOA-based identity access management functionality. because we need it so desperately. We need it definitely for the voice out there, for the authentication of all the different services and bridging them into business applications. What was the question? Oh yeah, the question was about what is about complexity and how mastering complexity. Well, actually, mastering complexity, we came across this very early. And the approach we picked for, well, let me say 1.5 years now, is we created a very consolidated framework, and we call it totally integrated security architecture. And this framework actually is a combination out of tons of projects where we brought the experience together in a standardized approach. And actually what's happening now is we take the business requirements and we map these business requirements on our framework. So the framework not only covers identity and access management functionality, but also network security, access, and all the different areas. And applying this type of methodology, we are really able to deliver projects much more in budget, with lower risk, and to make sure that we, how do you phrase that? We deliver what we promise.
Exactly.
So it's very much about a very industrialized and standardized approach we apply in our projects then.
Sounds like you found a best-of-breed approach from everything that worked outside of your projects and took the best components and put those together. It's a very interesting application, something that we haven't really talked much about in the identity and access management space. Well, thank you very much, Siegfried, and have fun and have some good leads at the EIC. Thank you.